Okay, I'm back. I had to take a quick pause because my eight, Ivan, did something so wonderful for me because he knows I'm leaving and he brought me some bags I could start packing my things up in. He is so awesome. Let me tell you, if you have to be in a place like this, you want someone like Ivan. He is awesome. Anyway, I was talking about my godfather and second cousin, Emile Griffith, who was sorry, best friends with Joe Frazier. So, being that I was his goddaughter, I used to hang out with him a lot at his gym in Times Square. Um, so I got, you know, it wasn't at my request to hang out with him. He ordered me. He told me if I'm going to be home doing nothing, I must be at the gym with him until my father came home. It wasn't something that I was able to say, no, I'm going to stay home. I'm going to stay with my mother until my father gets home. No, he ordered me to come to the gym, and I was very angry and defiant. I thought, I'm 20 years old, and I could do what I want, not according to him. In my home, he made rules for me to follow. None of the other siblings had to follow his rules. Only me. And I'm going to write a book about my journey with Emile Griffith. When I told my father what he was doing, my father said, if Emile tells you to do something, if I was you, I'd just do it. And that's it. And he walked off. So if Emile told me I had to be home at a certain time, guess what? I had to be home at that time. If Emile told me, I told Emile that I was thinking about moving out. He said to me, I thought, I'll stop talking so fast. I thought he was going to be happy for me. He told me, who said you're old enough to move out? You're not old enough yet. I said, but my parents said, my parents said I'm old enough to move out. He said, put your mother on the phone. So I went and I got my mother, and when I got back on the phone, my mother said I could no longer move out because Emile said I couldn't move out. I was so hurt that Emile's word was, Emile said, if Emile said it, then I had to do it. I didn't understand that. But anyway, I couldn't move out. The first time I defied Emile was when I was getting married. This gentleman who lived on my block, who was much older than me, wanted to marry me. We had dated for 6 years. And Emile said, well, I want to meet him first. That's my father's position. But I told my father, and my father said, well, if Emile wants to meet him, let him meet him here. So my parents had a big dinner. Emile came over. Emile laughed and joked. I wish I could find those pictures of him. But when he went home, when my fiance went home, Emile took me in the dining room and said, I don't like him. and I don't want you to marry him. I was so upset. This was the first time I defied Emile. And I said, I'm marrying him anyway. He said, if you marry him, I'm not coming to the wedding. I said, well, my father's coming to the wedding. That's all that matters. But I didn't think he would stand to that. I figured Emile would come anyway. Well, Emile did not come. I watched the door all day to see if he would walk through it. And Emile didn't walk through it. He actually didn't come. But that was the first time I defied him. And the only time I defied him. He actually didn't come. I was hurt. I was very, very hurt. I should have listened to him, but that's for a story for another time. And Emile, Emile knew a lot of things about me that I should have listened to. I was just at an age where I thought I knew better. There was one time I went downtown because Emile was a celebrity referee. And I had to hold his hand in Times Square. If anybody remembers Times Square, how crowded it was hard to walk shoulder to shoulder with anybody. And uh, somebody was walking toward me. So I had to step back to let them go by because it was so crowded. Emile, you felt my hand slip out of his because I had to step back. Emile thought I was taking my hand out of his. Emile yelled at me so bad in Times Square. You could hear him yelling at me over all the noise in Times Square. He told me if he felt my hand slip out of his again, he was gonna stop in Times Square and spank the mess out of me. Now, Mia was a boxer. A spanking from him would quickly turn into a beatdown, I'm sure. But when we started walking again, I turned into a linebacker, and I wouldn't let anybody push me away because he was serious. So when we got to the event, there was a lot of paparazzi, I guess, and I got nervous, and I said, this is a good time to get away from him. Just get away from the cameras. There was too many flashing lights, no cell phones at that time. But all these flashing lights were in my eyes. I experienced what every all of the celebrities experienced. But there were so many people. I ducked and I went around the side, and there was a man waiting for me. And when I found Emile's eyes, Emile looked at me and nodded to me to go with that man. And the guy said, I was told to take care of you, so I don't know where you're going. So I had to go with him and stay with him because Emile was around a lot of people. So there was a guy from the radio station who was talking to me over and over again. During the national anthem, he was still he was still talking. And I looked over at Emile, and Emile was mad. And I was trying to signal to Emile that I'm not talking to him. He's talking to me. So Emile pointed to me and pointed to the chair next to him in front of all these people because he was up front. And I shook my head no. I shook my head no. I'll move. I'll move away from this man. I told the man, I wish I could remember his name. I said, I'm sorry. I have to leave because I'm making my godfather, or I had to, okay, I had to call him my father because he didn't like godfather. I said, I'm making my dad mad, so I'm going to have to move. So I moved to a different spot, and I showed Emile, and Emile shook his head yes. So I was afraid of what was going to happen when the event was over. At the end of the event, they gave my godfather or my dad a plaque com- commemorating, I guess that's how you say, his um, his boxing life, and a giant bouquet of flowers. And they asked him to say a little something, but he goes, I will in just a minute. And Emile walked over to me in the audience and gave me the plaque and gave me the big bouquet of flowers. And and once he gave it to me, as he was walking back to up front where he was going to say his speech, he winked at me to let me know everything was okay. So I dodged that bullet. And that wink became our form of communication to, to let me know everything was okay. So when Emile was dying, hmm, when Emile was dying, his adopted son said, he doesn't know a lot of people. He's just staring off into space. And my siblings walked up to him, and he stared off into space. They was telling him that they loved him. It was a little hard for me to see him like that. But finally, I walked up to him, and I said, Emile, do you know who I am? I'm your goddaughter. Emile locked eyes with me, and he winked at me. And I got so excited, but I'm thinking maybe that's just um, like a body function that happened. So I asked my siblings to do it again. They walked up to him. He stared up in his face. And then I walked up to him, and I said, Emile, it's your goddaughter. And he locked eyes with me again, and he winked at me. And that's when I knew he knew who I was. And oh my goodness, yes, I went in the hallway and I cried. Yes, I'm a crybaby. Because he used our private um, form of communication to let me know that he heard me. He knew I was there. So I told him 1,000 times I loved him, and I will always love him. So that's just something I wanted to share with you. That was the last time I saw him. He died recently. I mean, recently after that moment. I miss him every day. We had some really nice times. Um, when I had some of you who know me know I had brain surgery. And I was out from work. I worked at Burlington Coat Factory. And I was out from work for a long time. The day, 2 days when I went back to work, Mike Tyson came to the gym in Times Square. So Emile called me and said, "Where are you? I want you down here to take a picture with Mike Tyson." And I said, "Well, they'll fire me if I take off another day because I just got back to work from having brain surgery." He goes, "You can't take off one more day?" I said, "No, they threatened to fire me." So I couldn't go. So at the gym, when Emil was training a lot of boxers, I had to sit in the corner. And there was a gentleman by the name, well, I won't say his name, but there was a man there, there who was watching me. I always had somebody watch me when I went somewhere with Emil. And I can only move with this gentleman. So this gentleman took the picture with Mike Tyson for me. And I still have that picture today. I showed a lot of people. But that day I regretted not going downtown to meet Mike Tyson. There was Julio Chavez when he came down there. Now I was there for that one. Emil made me sit up. They had some stands while he sparred with somebody. Emil made me sit up front and study his boxing technique. I said, "Emil, I don't know anything about boxing." He said, "You're going to learn today about boxing because I'm going to grill you when I come back." That was to make me stay in my seat and pay attention to this man. So I had to tell Emil what this Julio Chavez was doing wrong when he was boxing. You know how he dropped his hand, how he didn't move his body. Sorry, his body right. I actually had to study Chavez and report back to my godfather. I was so close to Chavez that his sweat from his hair when he shook his head got all over me. It was so disgusting. Ugh. It was disgusting. But there was something funny that happened with Chavez. The guy he was sparring with had him on the ropes. When Chavez was boxing, sorry, was boxing to get off the ropes, he was trying to box his way out. Something got caught on Chavez's trunks. And when he went to box to get off the ropes pulled him back because it was caught on his trunks. We laughed so long. It was so funny because he just knew he had it. But the ropes had him better. And that was the joke of the day. Let me tell you, it was funny. I mean, it doesn't sound funny now, but it was funny then. So that was a nice thing that lightened up the mood. But I have pictures of Chavez when he was in the ring, but I'm sorry, I forgot what I was gonna say. Anyway, I have pictures of Chavez when he was in the ring, but I could never get a good picture shot because Emil kept talking to me and making me tell him what Chavez was doing wrong. That was a good experience. And there was other boxers that came through at the gym, and everybody knew my godfather. And Emil introduced me to all of them. So even though I was mad, I had a nice experience with him. I appreciate that experience more now that I'm older. I wish I had experienced it and enjoyed it more then. I went to after parties with Emile, and Emile liked to drink, and I would use that against him. Like when Emile drank enough, and I knew he was nice and drunk, that's when I disappeared. That's when I disappeared. So that's just a little bit of my journey with Emile. He was very protective. Oh, you know what? Um, they had there was something called Harlem Week, which I wanted to go to every time Harlem Week came. I wanted to go to. So Emile said, you know what? We have, I think he called it an expose, something where his boxers, um, they were going to be at Harlem Week. And I was so happy. I said, I'm finally going to Harlem Week. So I brung a friend with me, and we we went down there. I was in a building where the guys were changing into their boxing gear and practicing. And I said, Emile, it was one of those windows that went from the ceiling to the floor, and you had a great view of Halloween. I said, Emile, this is a perfect view of Harlem Week. Emile said, I'm so glad you said that. And I said, why? He said, because this is where you're going to watch Harlem Week from. Did you think I was going to let you down there with all those people while I'm working and I wouldn't be able to watch you? No way. I got two guys who are going to stay up here with you. They're going to watch you while I work down in the crowd. But you are not to leave here. So my friend said, I did not sign up for this. So Emile looked at her and said, I'm not worried about you. I'm concerned with my daughter. She is not to go down there. Sorry, sorry. She is not to go down there. I'm not concerned about you could go down there and do what you want, but my daughter's not gonna be in that crowd. So I just watched Harlem Week from a building. He he was just to me he was overprotective, and there were other things that he did that showed his overprotectiveness. But I never went back to Harlem Week. He made me stay and watch Harlem Week from the window of a building. I was so upset. I was so hurt. My friend left me. When he told her he was not concerned with her, she goes, bye. And well, yeah, she left me. I know some people are saying, what kind of friend is that? But she left me. And I stayed there with the two guys and the boxers who was changing into their boxing uniforms. And yeah, it was a nice experience, but I would have liked to be down in Harlem Week. But Emile, he wasn't having it. He goes, I don't want anybody to touch you. That's what he told me. I don't want anybody to touch you. You are to stay here with these two guys. So I said, well, I had to. My father said, if Emile told me to do something, I had to do it. So when Emile spoke, I listened because I did not want to get hit by Emile. So today, Emile was known for when, I'm so sorry about this, but he fought somebody in the ring, and that gentleman, he died a couple of days later. And there were so many things that happened that the cameras, the reporters did not report correctly on. But I don't want to say anything to diminish the loss of that gentleman. It was a long time ago, but there's so many things that happened that the reporters didn't report on, which I'm going to put in my book. And so today I met, not through Facebook, I met that gentleman's son. So he talked to me. I also talked to Joe Frazier Jr. Joe Frazier's daughter, Jackie, is also Emile's goddaughter. But Emile told me I was his only goddaughter. I'm not sure why Emile didn't tell me he had another goddaughter. I don't understand that one. But Emile told me I was his one and only. And he was he was he told he told me that he never mentioned Jackie to me. I learned about her later on in life. Emile was like a father to me, very overprotective father. Like I said, he made rules for me in my own parents' home that I had to follow, which I didn't understand. And he told me that I had to call him every week, every week, and tell him something. I don't care what it was, he said. He said, you are to call me every week and tell me something, anything. And he said, don't make me call you. You make sure you call me. He was very, oh, he was something else. He was really something else. So every week, I had to call him and tell him something. I would ask my mother, give me a topic to talk to him about. And I had to call him and tell him about that topic. And that topic I'm going to put in my book. It was a very interesting topic. One of the topics that I talked about. So, you know, Emile, even though he was hard on me, he was showing me that he loved me. That's how I see it now. That he loved me. And one time about those flowers that he presented to me during that when he was a celebrity referee. His mother called me to yell at me and she said, I took her flowers. How dare I take her flowers? Okay, I cried. Yes, you know already. I'm a crybaby. I'm a crybaby. Emile called me right after that to make sure I was okay. He said he talked to his mother about what she did, and he wanted to make sure I was okay. Then something happened after that. Well, before that, with my father, which I'll put in the book. I won't say now. But Emile did call me to make sure I was okay. He was a good man, and you'll learn a lot about him in the book. So I rabbled on enough tonight. I'm going to say good night. I love each and every one of you, and I hope that you had a good day and you have a blessed night. So until tomorrow, I hope we all see tomorrow because tomorrow is not promised, and I can testify to that. I made plans for the next day, but my heart stopped and almost tomorrow almost never came. So to all of you from Queen, A.K.A. Misty, may God bless you with tomorrow. May you have a good night and a better tomorrow. Have a good night. Bye bye.